Hi, thank you for joining me on YouTube for a little yoga quickie for the feet. So this week we focused on yoga for plantar fasciitis. And of course, there's many things to take in consideration, many things you can do if you do have a flare up. But there are some things that you can do that are also preventative so that you don't have these issues with your feet. So I'm just picking one thing that we did in the whole repertoire of this week's classes that I thought is great. That was one of my favorite things that we did on the wall. So glad you're here to join in. Okay, so we're going to start, and you're going to need a wall that you can stand in front of and just use it as some support. Couple props, a folded blanket can come in handy. And what we will do with the folded blanket when the time comes is you don't necessarily use the whole blanket, but you can roll it. I call it a cinnamon roll. And it doesn't have to be the whole amount. You can find, some people might want it a little bigger, some people might want it less. It's going to depend on how it feels in your feet. So have that handy. The other thing is only if you have a couple blocks for one thing we're doing. If you don't have blocks, don't worry about it. It's not necessary, but it just can give you a little bit of support. Okay, but to start, we don't need anything but the wall. So as you go to your wall and you can lean your hands into the wall just to hold. Let's start with the right leg and take the right leg back. So when you have plantar fasciitis, it actually is the fascia that's on the sole of the feet that in the connective tissue to the heel bone at the back can tear, and that's what causes this burning pain of plantar fasciitis. So we're just going to do a very gentle lunge here. You don't have to have your legs too far apart. You bend your front leg a little bit. To start, try to keep maybe your right leg straight with your heel on the floor. So just hold that and breathe. Now, some of you might, inch back a little bit. Okay, you might feel for this one, it's stretching the calf muscle at the back of the lower leg. And if you do have plantar fasciitis, often if there's issues in the feet, you can show up as tightness in the calf and even the hamstring muscle in the back of the upper leg. Just take a couple deep breaths here. Now, if you're still not feeling much and you want to just kind of explore it a little bit more, if you have plantar fasciitis, maybe be very, very mindful about this. You might not go, you don't want to overstretch because you can continue to tear. So you have to do a little bit of the healing. So what you do is you just bend the right leg and the left leg. You just kind of bend into it and kind of just lower your hips down a bit more. You're still trying to keep the heel on the floor. So just make sure this feels okay with your right foot. And of course, everywhere else, but our focus is the foot. Ooh, okay. I'm doing a little sway here side to side. So you can add, very little movement, just some micro movements. Okay, and then release. Okay, the next one we're going to do is the toe squat. And so this one, you want to get the right toes curled under. And then again, you're going to do that little bit of a bend into it. So you're lifting your heel all the way off the floor now. Again, be super mindful if there's already some issues. Otherwise, we're always looking for some discomfort because that is telling us we're doing something. We're doing some healthy stress in the tissues, in the connective tissue. Okay, I find this one is working some of the thigh muscles to be able to hold the position. Okay, so you just decide how deep you want to go into it. And again, that little bit of the sway on the toes, you might want to try that. And breathe. Ah, good. Okay, and then let's release. Just let the foot relax. Give it a little bit of gentle movement, some integration movement. Okay, check in. Give your foot. So you could do some other things. These are great for just daily mobility, is spiraling your ankle. You could circle and circle. This is good to do actually when you wake up. If you have plantar fasciitis, when you wake up in bed, before you put, usually you feel the pain as soon as your heel goes to the floor. So you could do some spirals, warming up the feet. That's the key, is maybe think about warming up the foot and the waking up the foot before it actually lands on the floor. You could spiral the other way. Okay, the last one we're going to do on the right foot is the ankle stretch. And so this one, and again, be mindful about it. If you go too far too quickly, you can get cramps. So you just put the top of the foot on the floor. And for me, this week's I've seemed to be getting cramps from this position. So you might not do anything else except just lightly put the top of the foot on the floor. But again, if you want to explore a little deeper, you could do the bending again in the knees, bending your knees down. And then there could be that little bit of sway on the top of the foot, micro movements though, not big movements. So explore where it feels good for you. Breathe. Try to relax the right foot as much as you can here. Okay, great. And then release. And a suggestion is sometimes if you're sitting in a chair, if you have to sit in a chair a lot, you could tuck your foot under the chair, put the foot on the floor on the chair, and you could do these stretches in a chair, that top of the foot stretch we just did there, which is also good for the ankle. Okay, just notice how it feels. Of course, we've got to balance it out. Just take a moment, just take a mini moment here, standing, take a deep breath, maybe sigh it out. And just take this moment to feel the difference. Like we just worked with the right foot, and feel the difference with the left foot. You might feel a lot more awareness, a lot more sensation. The foot might actually feel more connected to the ground beneath it. Okay, good. And then let's switch over to the left side. So we started by taking the left leg back into a very gentle lunge. Keep the heel on the floor. Just a little bit of a bend in the front leg and feel. And again, you might inch the foot back further if you're not feeling anything. To start, try to straighten. Keep the left leg straight. And notice this is actually working the heel, the Achilles. So again, this is where you might only do very, very, very gentle if you have flare-ups, okay? And just be very mindful in breathing in and breathing out. I mean, we covered so much in the classes this week. I'm just picking one element, and I feel like this is very accessible for people. You just need a wall. Okay, but if you want to go a little further, you could do that little bend in your back left knee, just sinking down. Oh, it feels like the heel's popping off, but you're trying to keep the heel downwards. It's definitely awakening. You could sway, micro movements. Okay, and then when you are ready, release. Whoo, notice, feel, and breathe. So usually plantar fasciitis affects people between the ages of 40 and 60. Let's go to the next one. Toe squat. So you're gonna Take the left leg back again on the toes, spread the toes, and then bend your knees and lower down a bit. And you're kind of coming forward, so you're really just putting more weight on the toes. And drag your toes back so you get even your little baby toe involved. And you could even do the little micro movement. Good. So some things that might cause it could be people that stand on their feet all day. When you're on hard surfaces long periods of time, certain athletes, overuse of using your feet. Good. It could be wearing shoes that don't fit you, that are uncomfortable. Overweight, because you're putting more pressure on the feet. Okay, and then go ahead when you're ready to release. Just let your foot relax a moment, then give it little wiggles. Okay, good. And then the final one here is the ankle stretch or the top of the foot stretch. So take your leg back and holding and breathing. Ooh. And you just do a little bend in the front leg. If you want to go a little further, go a little further. And breathe. Okay, I'm feeling lots on this side. Micro movements if you want to sway. Not the body necessarily, it's more just rolling on the foot. Okay, remember this one is the one you could do on the chair and release. Holy smoly. Release and relax. Whew. Okay, so just again, noticing and feeling, giving any integration movement. So again, you could do the spirals, which again, great to do in bed. So other things you could do in bed is the point and flex along with the spirals in the morning. Do them in bed before you get out of bed and massage your feet. So the idea is to bring warmth into the feet to warm them up. I mean, we normally, our fascia is a little bit more tight in the morning. So again, you just want to kind of rub your thumb and fingers in there. Okay, and then plant down again and just again have this moment to feel. Feel free to close your eyes and take a deep breath and sigh it out. Lovely. Okay, so now to get to the blanket roll. So this one, again, you could take a blanket and make a cinnamon roll, roll it, and you have to play around with it how big you want the roll. And this is where maybe if you have blocks, you don't need them, but they might be there just as a little bit of support. Okay, so you're actually going to put the balls of the foot on the cinnamon roll. So if you really have a issue with one foot, I would recommend maybe doing this 1 foot at a time, just so you don't overdo the one that you have more concerns with. But if you're okay to do both, you could take your feet hip width apart or maybe even just a little bit wider, and the heels are on the ground and the balls of the feet are on the cinnamon roll, the elevation. Okay. And so you could just hang out here and feel that. And if you're not feeling much, you can make a bigger roll, a bigger roll. Bigger, you'll get more like stress into the bottoms of the feet. And again, if you have a flare up, do less. Okay. Otherwise, you go to a place where you're feeling the stress, a healthy amount of stress. You want it to be just right. Not too much, not too little. And breathe. Okay. Breathe here and focus. Now you could do a little bit of sway here, side to side too. Oh. You could even do some things with the toes here where you take your toes, you spread them apart, lift them and spread them apart. And then you scrunch the cinnamon roll. Could you imagine your feet squishing in a cinnamon roll? I don't recommend it, okay? And then stretch. And then you squish the cinnamon roll. And then you stretch. And then you squish the cinnamon roll. And then you relax your toes. Okay, we're going to do a couple more things with this, just change it up a little bit. One is to put your feet a little bit more in the duck feet position where you fan the toes out, the heels stay in. Okay, and so you could just kind of try that one on, try that out. Maybe, bend your knees a little bit into it. Just kind of play with it. You're feeling different things. Sway a little bit, little micro movements. Oh, I'm feeling like lots in the backs of the calves, which is great. You're going to want to work with your calves too, and of course your hamstrings. And then you could try the pigeon toe one. You take your heels out, it's going to just totally change up the feeling. Just think of it that every time you change the shape, you change the sensations. And so we are just bringing awareness to that, mindfulness. It's a mindfulness practice that we pay attention on purpose, but without judging, and if something doesn't feel right, and of course, if you feel pain or strain, back off, get out of it. You don't need to be there. That's not the purpose, okay? And then the last thing I wanted to do here is just bring your feet back to more neutral in this position on the balls of the feet on the cinnamon roll, and the toes again can be hugging. And you're going to go into a forward bend. So just do this really carefully. And you could bend your knees a little bit and then come down. I just suggested the blocks only because they could just offer a bit of support there, but you could always just put your fingers on the ground if you like. And wowza, like I don't know if you could feel it, but I could feel so much in the backs of the legs. You could keep the legs bent, you could start to straighten them. You can straighten one, then the other, just pedaling, like you're pedaling the feet here and breathing. And then you could send the buttocks back, you could sway forward. Just let it be an exploration, an investigation, checking in. Okay, good. And then release. Whew. And carefully come up and just take this final moment to just be here, noticing, feeling, breathing. And again, bring awareness to your feet. Just feel the aliveness. Feel the relationship of your feet to the ground. And your feet right now are thanking you for taking care of them. And I am thanking you for being here with me, honoring the light within you. Namaste, my friends.